So now I'm going to talk about charging by induction. You can charging by induction is charging an object without contact. That means that the object undergoes polarization. Polarization is the movement and accumulation of charges within the object. And I want to go right now into my sketchbook, and I want to see a couple of ways by which you're going to see this in the Regents exam or the AP exam for that matter. So you have to know how to charge an object with by two ways, okay, and two objects. You're going to be asked to charge pith ball, polarize a pith ball, and of course an electroscope. An electroscope is simply an object that in the presence of charges, it will reveal the presence by lifting up their leaves. So let's check this out. So pith ball, if you remember correctly from class, it is simply going to be um, a string, and we're going to have a circle that is basically a simple styrofoam ball, and it has carbon on the outside, so it accumulates charges on the outside. So based on this, if you have a neutral object, okay, you're going to have an intermixing of positive and negative charges. So they're going to be distributed evenly within this object. Now, let's say we have to now charge them. Okay, so here we go. Here's the pith ball. Again, it's hanging by, as you can see over here, a string. And we bring close to it a lucite rod. And as we recall correctly, a lucite rod is, of course, going to be negatively charged always. So what is it going to do within this pith ball? It is going to move charges and make it polarized. So that means you're going to have to explain now how the charges will basically move. So I'm going to separate the charges by putting a line over here so you can actually see. So what's going to happen? What moves? Only the electrons will basically move within this object. So as the lucite rod comes closer to the pith ball, it is going to repel all the electrons because remember, like repel, opposites attract. So it's going to push the electrons to one portion of the pith ball. And in the other portion, of course, it is going to be positively charged. And if you recall correctly, whenever we put together a lucite rod next to a pith ball, they would always attract because there was this opposite charges. So these will attract. So for the Regents, or the AP exam, you would actually have to say that electrons move within the pith ball to the opposite side. On the other hand, now let's say we have the same pith ball, and notice again we bring close to it a glass rod. This glass rod, of course, is going to have a whole bunch of positive charges right over here. So glass rod is always positive, as you recall correctly. So now what's going to happen? So originally we said it was what? It was neutral, just like this. So they were intermixed. But now the presence of the positive glass rod is going to draw the electrons closer to it. So electrons are going to flow within the object again, because notice how there is a distance, so it's charging without a contact. So the negative charges are now going to go to this side right here. And again, there's going to be an attraction. So what's going to leave behind? It's going to be a net, as you guys can see right here, positive charge. So the presence now of a lucite rod close to the pith ball is going to produce polarization within this object, okay? And that's what we basically observe, this initial attraction. Now, the next thing you need to know, okay, is, so let me delete this, and let me clear it out. So the next thing you need to know is how an object is polarized if it's an electroscope. So again, we have the top ball, we have the body, and over here we have the leaves. They go straight down because gravity pulls them straight down. So we have these three parts. Once again, we have the head, the bulb, the body right here, and the leaves are at the bottom. In the presence of a charge, as you recall, it will cause these two leaves right here to basically separate. So originally, if it's neutral, we have, as we said, an intermixing of electrical charges. They're all distributed evenly, so it's all over the place. So that is, of course, a neutral object. So what's going to happen? So now, let's say, for example, again, we're charging it by induction. So that means without contact. So at some distance, we bring now lucite rod. As you guys know, lucite rod is always going to be negative in charge. So here are all the negative charges. So now what's going to happen? So now we will, obviously it's going to detect it, and the leaves, of course, will separate. So now what's going to happen is the following. So half of the electroscope, okay, is going to be positively charged, and the other half, because that's what polarization is, and the other half is going to be negatively charged. So what is going to be on top? So the ball right here, or aka the head of the electroscope, you're going to have what? You're going to have positive charges, because all the electrons will be pushed down away from this negative lucite rod. So all these now leaves are going to be negatively charged, and as you guys of course know, like will basically repel. So we have a net movement. So as you can see over here, here is neutral electroscope. So we have a net movement of electrons from the ball all the way to the leaves, and that's of course what you guys have to describe, both the regions as well as the AP exam. Likewise, as you can see right here, here it is again, the electroscope. Now we bring close to it a glass rod. Glass rod, of course, is going to have what? Positive charges all over the place, just like this. So now what's going to happen? The leaves, of course, will separate. They're not going to go straight down, as you see over here. And again, the object will be polarized. One part of it is going to be negative, the other part is going to be half. So what's going to go to the head of the electroscope over here? It is going to be negative charges, negative electrons right here. And what's going to remain in the back? Things that do not move, such as protons and neutrons. So that's what's going to remain over here. And of course, there's going to be an attraction here. Okay, so that's what basically charging by induction is. You have to know for both the pith ball as well as the electroscope how the electrons will basically move. And again, in this second scenario, electrons are going to move from the leaves. They're going to move all the way up into the head of the bulb. Okay, so the next thing that we have to discuss is, of course, charging now by conduction. So conduction